us about that.
Yeah, tell us about it.
I don't know a whole lot, and the one cousin I did ask about it offended her.
Oh, I can imagine if we'd ever asked
that was
Camilla.
Mary
Woo!
Frances, yeah, Camilla, and I don't know about Diana, how she would. Diana knows an awful lot of.
Now, where does she
stuff
live?
I didn't know. Elizabeth City.
Oh, okay.
And she's Uncle Eddie's daughter, and
So does that mean she's Camilla's sister?
half sister.
Okay.
Lucille and Camilla. Their mother was, I guess, Lavinia, but she was called Enid. And
I never heard of her.
And then he married Anne after, is that
no,
right?
no, he married Thelma.
Okay.
Eddie married Thelma.
Okay. Who married Anne?
Uncle Dallas, poor soul.
I got you.
Well, wasn't Thelma just as bad? I thought Thelma was a witch too. Because I remember Grandma made me go visit her, and I was like,
Where was that?
it was probably on the way to the beach, and we stopped on a Saturday night, and I just
You
remember
were with
watching.
Mama?
I remember watching Lawrence Welk, and I had heard Daddy had told us stories about that. You know, Daddy Bill was basically an alcoholic because of Thelma and Ann, and so I hated them. You know, I thought
Well,
you have ruined my grandfather.
Well, I would say more Aunt Anne would be the one. She would, she even wrote a book, about her life. And I looked through the book, and I was trying to find what she did write about my daddy and my mama. And she had some nice things to say about Mama, but I couldn't really find Daddy's name anywhere. But I did find that man, and I finally figured out who that man was.
Was your daddy?
It was my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And Helen, Helen and Kay were best friends.
And who's Helen?
Helen is the third daughter of Ann and Dallas.
Okay.
Lucy was the oldest, then Virginia Lee, and then Helen.
And Helen and your sister Kay were good friends.
Yeah, they were best friends.
Okay.
So after Kay had a heart attack, and they only gave her 6 months to live, and she ended up living for 5.5 years. Sometime during that time, she sent Kay Aunt Ann's book. And that made me mad. But Helen ended up dying before Kay did.
What did Aunt Ann say about that man in the book?
I can't remember now. It wasn't nice. I mean, it wasn't. It was derogatory, but she didn't really use ugly words. But
Right.
it was just uncomplimentary, and I don't think truthful.
So both Eddie and Dallas lost their first wives, died, or divorced, or what?
No. Okay. Dallas only had one wife.
Okay.
I hope he gets another one. Eddie and Ann, it's funny because I was just thinking about this yesterday, and I don't know what made me think of it. Uncle Dale was really a fun person to be around.
Daddy loved him.
Oh yeah, and your daddy was a lot like him, but your daddy also, my daddy, and your daddy's personality was a lot alike.
Really?
Daddy's was quieter. But yeah, he was. I loved to go when they took us out to dinner, which was really rare. It was just too expensive. But yeah, Dad, the way he talked to the waitresses and would tease them, and they would like it, you know, and he was fun, and I was a daddy's girl. When I was 7, I can remember being in Mom and Daddy's bedroom while Daddy was getting dressed. And I would follow him all around and say, well, Daddy, if you'll get baptized first, then you can baptize me.
Oh.
And, you know, it just kept on and on and on. And finally, Daddy told me, he said, you know, and he was really sweet about it, that he couldn't be baptized right now. And so I had to decide who was I going to ask to baptize me. I guess I could have asked Lee, because he would have been 16 when I was 8. But I didn't think about that, and I don't think anybody else did either. It was Uncle Arthur had baptized all the others, the other 4. And, but I didn't have a close connection with Uncle Arthur, but I did with Uncle Sidney, and that's Anita's husband, and that was Lois's daddy and mama. And so I asked him to baptize me, and he did. And because if my daddy couldn't do it, I wanted somebody that I knew loved me like my daddy did.
That's sweet.
And that was Uncle Sidney.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
Lois's dad.
dad.
Lois's
Okay.
daddy.
Okay, I didn't
That's
know
neat.
I didn't like Lois very much right then.
Oh.
Well, I mean, what, she was 12 or 13 years older than me.
that. Yeah, that makes a
Oh,
difference.
So going back to the
But, oh yeah, okay, let me tell you, all right, Uncle Dale only had the one wife, and he died in August the 5th, August the 3rd of 1950, down here at the beach, during the night.
Grandma would make us all bring funeral clothes every time we came to the
Oh, yeah.
beach,
Just in
because so
case.
many people died when we were down here.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
family members, and
Yeah.
here we were just an hour away, so we had to be prepared for funerals, weddings, and
Baptism.
Yeah.
I got baptized when we were down here
where?
in Elizabeth City.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I
Yeah.
got baptized in Elizabeth City too,
Yeah.
but I don't even know who did it. Well, I'm sure Daddy did
Daddy.
it. Yeah, but I think Aunt Lorna was the only one there that I knew.
Huh.
Because we had that, do you remember that portable fountain they had at the,
Font.
yeah. Oh, it was gross. I was not going to get baptized in that.
Oh, where
In
was-
Roanoke Rapids. So Daddy said, well, we'll go to Elizabeth City then. So
Now, I was
I don't-
baptized in that font. I was,
Oh,
I
cool.
think, about the 5th person to be baptized.
it was like this, I don't even know how you got in it, but it was this huge sack kind of thing.
Oh, in
Oh.
Roanoke Rapids.
Yeah,
I don't
remember
remember
that.
that at all.
yeah. Daddy got baptized in the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
The
was.
Blackbeard bat.
Uh-huh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
that's
that.
where Kay was baptized, and probably where Billy was baptized.
Oh,
But I
cool.
think about poor Lee in November in the roaring Pasquotank. I read a book, and it was started off down in Pasquotank in Camden County, And the author, you can tell she'd never been here. She described the Pasquotank as the roaring river. And that's so ridiculous.
So how did we're talking Dallas? Which one married Aunt Ann again?
Dallas.
And did his first wife die?
He had that. She was his only wife.
Okay. Ann
Ann.
I thought Ann was the second wife for some reason.
No.
Okay.
She's one.
Gotcha.
Now, and they had 5 children.
Okay.
They had 3 daughters and then 2 sons.
Okay.
And
James was the one. James Edward McPherson was the one that was married more than once.
Mm-hmm.
Did his wife die or divorce?
Died.
Okay.
And I can't remember what but then he remarried Thelma, and Thelma had 2 children, Joseph and Diana.
And that's Eddie?
That's
Okay.
Eddie.
I didn't know when you said his whole name, I didn't know who it was.
The only reason I know that is because there's portraits that used to hang up at the plant.
Mhm.
Names at the
Yeah.
bottom. And which one was called Captain Mac?
I had 2 uncles called Captain Mac.
Huh.
They were both called Captain Red because they were both redheads. Uncle Oliver he was the oldest of grandmother's children. That the 8 that lived to be adults. All right, and he was a real large, obese man, and he loved movies, and so his friend owned the Carolina Theater in Elizabeth City, so he had a special chair built and put it right where Uncle Oliver liked to sit. And when Uncle Oliver wasn't there, it was the couple's chair. They would like to sit there. And I got to sit in it once with Diana or Gail, I don't know which. But anyway, so
Oliver was the Captain Mac, and you said who's the
and
other?
also Captain Red, because he had red hair.
Okay.
And then Uncle Dallas had red hair.
Okay.
So he was in Littleton, and if somebody said Captain Mac, I knew they were talking about Dallas. And or Captain Red, Captain Mac. Anyway.
Interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
why'd they call both of them the same names?
Probably got
Because you had
places.
2 groups of people. One was in Elizabeth City and one was in Littleton.
Okay. That's funny.
So,
Hello.
hey!
There's my
she
sweetheart.
is.
That took me so long.
Get worried
For
about it.
bootlegging. And I don't know what year or anything, but I think, I don't know. I can't think of what age they might be, but anyway, the neat thing about this is, all right, they were put in jail. Sometimes they locked the cell that they were in, and sometimes they didn't. And
How long were they in there?
Boys, huh?
How long were they in there?
I don't know.
So this is the brothers?
I need to
We're
ask
in-
Diana or Geraldine about this.
I mean, if she knows you know some of the story, I can't imagine that she wouldn't be willing to tell you most of it.
Sometimes people get kind of touchy about
Yeah.
those things. I mean, like my daddy. Daddy was arrested one time, and he was put in jail one time for only a few hours, and that was because he and his daddy had been to Norfolk and bought Daddy a car. And on the way home, do y'all know where? What's the name of that place? Bridge. It won't come to me now.
Great Bridge.
No, not Great Bridge, but
It's right. Some bridge.
yeah. Anyway, right there on the old Highway 17. It's not the new 17 now. where there was a bridge and locks. And I know there's that same that at Great Bridge, but that's not the one. Deep Creek, yeah, that's it. Not Bridge, but Deep Creek was where Daddy's brakes failed and he couldn't stop, so he ran the stop sign.
Oh, no.
And the police got him and said, tried to explain what happened and said, my dad will be coming by. He's somewhere behind me and he's going to be coming by and he'll have the money for the fine. But he locked him up. Locked my dad. And the only time he ever told me that was, I don't know whether I was going to see Alice and Bobby up in the DC area or where I was going. But he would give me some money, like $60 or $80. Now, you don't spend this. This is not for spending.
Just in case you get arrested.
Bail
Yeah. money.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, because he didn't know how long it would take him to get to me or anything. So yeah, that was really, Daddy was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
And that generation would be.
So the ones that were the bootleggers, I had heard some story about they had the bus company and that they would send stuff up in the buses up to the Northeast. Is that, you know anything about that?
Probably they did that, but it was Oliver and Eddie Oliver that owned the bus line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the reason he had to sell the bus line was because either Trailway or Greyhound decided to come in and put a bus between Norfolk and Elizabeth City. That's where Uncle Oliver's bus line was. This was in the 20s. And so they said, well, if you don't sell to us, we'll run you out of business.
Right.
So he sold. And he saved his newest bus. And he converted that into a trailer. And he took his wife, who was Aunt Lydia, and she was another.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
They didn't have good taste in women, did they?
No, they really had a rough time. Now these women were all really strong-willed women.
And I know Aunt Ann was real pretty, right?
No, that was Aunt Lydia. That was pretty.
Oh.
Well, you know, the pictures that we see them, they were more overweight, but when they were younger, were they thinner, or were they always kind of more? Because I don't remember seeing pictures of them when they were younger.
Aunt Ann was attractive, but I wouldn't say real pretty. I don't know about Aunt Thelma.
Well, I'm thinking about the men, Dallas. Or were they? I mean, the pictures, they were kind of.
Yeah, they were definitely. Oliver, Eddie, not as much as Dallas and Callis.
There was a Dallas and a Callis? Oh.
Callis was the youngest.
Right.
He was the youngest. Now, he died in 1965. All right, but I hadn't finished telling y'all about the bootleg.
Yeah, we don't hear the bootleg.
All right. So when they were arrested, they helped, or about to be arrested, they helped get Arthur. This is what I've always heard, that they helped get Arthur out of it.
Oh.
So that he could go home and help take care of Grandma.
Oh.
And I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Grandma's sons paid her not to drive. Don't you love that? Anyway, so they were in jail, and they had no intentions of escaping, running away. They were going to do their time, but they were so good-natured and so dependable that sometimes their cell was locked when they were in there, and sometimes it wasn't, and sometimes they ran errands for the sheriff, and
While they were in jail.
They even moved them. I think they moved them from the jail, the local jail, whether it was Camden or Elizabeth City, and to some other place, and the same thing. They were such good-natured, honest men
Wow.
that they ran errands for the sheriff, and
Were
the people that knew them just loved them.
Were they pretty good at it? Did they make good money doing it? Do you know?
The bootlegging, I
I got you.
don't know. Granddaddy Lee died when Mama. Now his name is Oliver Lee, but he wasn't called Oliver. He was called Lee. So Granddaddy Lee died, or he had a stroke when Mama was 7 and died when Mama was 8. And it was a hemorrhagic stroke, which covered a large area of the brain, and he couldn't talk, but he would moan and make noises, and at night it was scary. Mama talked about that.
And that was her brother or her dad?
Her daddy.
Her dad. So that was the Lee that our dad was named after.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because he was named after Franklin and Lee, right? The two grandfathers?
He was both of our grandfathers were known by their middle names.
Oh.
Frank Jones and Lee McPherson.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah.
And F. Lee was the same way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Military tried to change that, but it didn't stick.
Something else I wanted to ask you. Oh, how old was Granddaddy Bill when they started doing the McPherson beverages?
That was, I thought when you asked me that question, I thought you were talking about beginnings of McPherson beverages. When you asked me what must have been about the other. Mama and Daddy got married in 1931. Billy was born in 32, and he was an infant when Mama moved to Littleton. And I don't know whether you know this story or not. Mama, Daddy moved to Littleton first to go ahead and get started and get them a house and rent a house and all that. And some of the ladies of the town came to visit, and ask about Mother and all, and ask, well, what church did they go to? And Daddy said he went to the Methodist, and said, well, your wife, and she's a Mormon. Oh, we don't have any of those here.
And didn't you say he said, well, you do now?
You do now. Yeah. Daddy was always supportive of the church and the missionaries and
That's
all.
great.
He never joined the church, never got baptized?
He did.
Okay.
When I was, I think 18, my senior year, and I wasn't at home. I don't know, it was in May. I don't know where I was. And when I came home, they told me Daddy had been baptized.
Wow.
Somewhere at a place near Gaston.
Interesting.
Was a creek or something that Daddy could, they could baptize Daddy. And that really upset me because the missionaries, the two elders and I were real, close, had a good relationship. I took them places and, but anyway, so, and there were those that said that somebody got Daddy drunk and they baptized him. I don't believe that. Daddy was thinking and talking like he was ready to join the church,
Right.
but he didn't feel like he could join. He didn't feel like he was good enough, and he still had.
Because he drank.
Pardon?
Because he drank. Is that
Well,
what you think?
he drank. He looked good, and he drank and he smoked. And I mean, you think about how hard those were to give up.
Yeah.
But
wasn't there something about, we were at a conference one time and they told a story and Daddy said it was about Daddy Bill that he had to have help getting down into the font because he had arthritis so bad.
oh yeah,
But he walked out by himself. Is that true?
I don't know a thing about it. Your daddy was there.
Yeah.
I
Daddy
wasn't.
told me that.
And I'm still mad about that. Hey, Lance, my goodness.
I'm gonna give you
Here
an air
comes-
hug just 'cause I'm a little sandy and dirty.
I did too, I think.
I
Yeah.
only remember one time when I saw him that he wasn't in bed, and it was on Christmas that he came to our house and he had a Santa hat on. He could not have been more fun that day.
Oh, that
He had
was
started
fun.
taking this
That was
medicine.
when you saw my daddy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only memory I have of him showing his personality. But he had started taking a medicine for his arthritis. If he drank, it could kill him. And so he had quit drinking during that time. And I think the drinking kind of sedated him. But he had quit drinking, so he just had the most fun personality. You had that Santa
hat.
outfit you had made. I still have that at the studio. I think
do?
I finally got rid of it, but I have the same memory.
It's funny. Every other time I remember him being in the bed, and what I remember is in their bedroom that there was 2 huge beds in there. I was a little kid, obviously.
2 double beds.
Right, but yeah, they had their separate beds in there. Like
But
Dick
they
and
never,
Laura,
they
Dick and Laura
never, they
Van Dyke.
only slept,
Then
they
one.
slept in one.
Oh,
really?
Maybe occasionally, if somebody was sick, would they get the other one? But yeah, the one bed that we call Granddaddy's bed was the one that they never slept in.
Huh.
That was for the grandchildren. When they stayed overnight, would want to sleep in
Aw.
Granddaddy's bed.
That's sweet.
And
These are good things to learn.
Yep,
Daddy, in front of y'all.
interesting. Did he died at home, didn't he? Your daddy?
At my house.
At your house.
David found him, right? Is that
No,
right?
I found
Oh,
him.
okay.
Was he in the
Your-
tub or
In
something?
your house, which house?
I was living in
Franklin.
Franklin,
Okay.
and I had. Hi. Oh, hello.
Who is that?
No, wait, you.
This
Wait.
is Echo. This is
Echo.
Buddy's
That's
friend.
what I was.
This is Aunt Margie, Echo.
Hi, Echo.
Nice to
I've
meet
seen
you.
your pictures and all.
I'm glad. Okay, I'll give you
He was born in 06 and he died in 60. No,
Talking about
no,
your dad.
Daddy died. He was 64.
Okay.
If he'd lived, he died in the middle of May. Was it on the 16th? Something like that. And his birthday was June 7th.
Oh,
If
wow.
he'd lived a few more weeks, he would have been 65.
Right.
Wow.
So I thought he was younger than that for some reason, because I had him dying in his 50s, which scared me because both him and my daddy both died of apparent heart issues at fairly young ages. You know,
Now,
I'm 53, 54,
but how old was your dad?
67,
I'm good.
50?
67.
67.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because he was.
Over there somewhere.
Daddy was 66. Would have been 67 the next month, right?
I thought he was 67.
Hey,
Just in case I
Peyton.
could be wrong.
He was born in
Hi,
83 and he
Peyton.
died in
Does he love the
2000.
sand?
'Cause remember he died the
He likes
year
to eat it.
before.
He just,
She
well, how's
wasn't
staying
joking
on?
when she put that up on
Colin Warren
Instagram.
stuff here. They walked in as I was walking in.
That you gave David.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness, did
And I
they
have
bring
more.
back great memories? And that picture of me at y'all's house at Christmas by the Christmas tree.
Y'all can just grab those chairs over there, guys. And
I
bring-
looked at that, I couldn't believe how straight my back was. And I had so much confidence.
And I
Ben,
love that picture of you.
what happened? So much confidence.
And I love that picture of you.
What happened?
Well, I've got more to give you, so help me remember before you leave.
This is Bolton. That's Blaine and Janelle's youngest. And
Hey,
you remember
Bolton.
Blaine and
Yeah,
Taylor
he's
Margie.
ruined
and
so much-
Janelle.
Hey, Janelle. So much confidence.
And I love that picture of you.
What happened?
Well, I've got more to give you, so help me remember before you leave.
This is Bolton. That's Blaine and Janelle's youngest. And
Hey,
you remember
Bolton.
Blaine and
Yeah,
Taylor
he's
Margie.
ruined
and
so much-
Janelle.
Hey,
Say that
Janelle.
again. Tell me again. You'd.
I'd say, there goes Mutton Chef, Mutton Chef. I remember when I was in the first and second grade, Billy was a senior, I think, when I was in the first grade. So then Lee would be a senior when I was in the second grade. And, y'all, Alice was so sick. When she was on the mend, we'd play school, and Alice would be the teacher.
And what was wrong with her?
She had pneumonia more than 9 times from the time that she was born until she was, let's say 16.
Wow.
And Alice never believed she'd really live to be 16 because
Wow.
she would have, pneumonia. And they didn't take her to the hospital. They had trained nurses come and be at the house.
Wow.
And one time, she was just a toddler, and she was real sick, and she, there were several times, I've heard Mama say this, that there were several times that the doctor would tell Mama and Daddy that he'd done everything he could do, it was up to the Lord.
Wow.
So,
And then didn't you say that there were at times like that there weren't missionaries that were
No
assigned,
missionaries and-
but missionaries would show up.
Pass
the
through.
mission president, any time that any missionaries were traveling and in near Littleton, they were supposed to come by. And sometimes they'd come by at 11, even 12 o'clock at night sometimes. And and we, make beds for them. But that was because if Mama needed Alice to be, or any of us to be administered to, and usually when there was a need,
They would just show up.
they would come,
That's awesome.
and not
And did she
necessarily.
kind of just grow out of it?
Well, okay. Here's the story.
Did you send that to Sarah?
First, let me finish
She
the
just said
first
something
one.
about
When
Turkish
she was
ham
real
cookie.
sick, and
Did you say
they thought she was
get her
gonna
hair
die,
at 3? Like you just said.
Alice looked at Mama and said, "I want a Pepsi." And so Mother said, "All right, then you go get you some." And the trained nurse just about blew a gasket. "You can't give that child Pepsi." My mama said, "My child is not going to die with an empty stomach."
No.
With no
So-
Pepsi running through her.
So she had some Pepsi. But then, Lori, hey, darling. Oh, my, look at you. Oh, my goodness, it's so good to see you. I don't know when I have seen you, darling.
Forever.
Yeah, it has.
It's great to see you.
Deteriorating. And more physically than, but I knew too that there was some mental, okay, I finished that one. So, all right, Alice was born in 1937. Penicillin, when it was invented about that time, it was used during the war. It was only used for military. It was not available to the public. So once about 46, 47, that's when it began to be used by the public. Changed Alice's life.
Wow. And how old was she when she died?
I think she was 77.
But that's amazing because she was so sickly.
Oh, she never thought she'd live to be that old. But she never thought she'd live to be 16. And of course, Mama and Daddy were very protective of
What's
Alice.
odd too is that Charles and Chris both seem like they get pneumonia and stuff like that a lot.
You know, that predisposition for that.